Good morning, Osage Hills, from Herschel and Lynette.
Good morning from the Davises.
Good morning, for
We
Davis.
miss you.
We miss you. Bye.
Hello, Osage Hills. This is Tygon. I just want to say good morning, and I hope you have a blessed day.
Good morning, Osage Hills, from Nicole and the kids.
Hello. Good morning, Osage Hills.
From the Wackermans.
Hey.
Good morning, Osage Hills, from Lonnie
and Tina.
Hey Osage Hills, I'm so glad you've chosen to worship with us today. I hope you have your Bible ready, you're ready to worship, you've got your communion supplies ready today. I'm so thankful for you, and I look forward to the time where we can all be back together. But for now, I hope that you have a great experience worshiping God with us today.
Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Open up the heaven. We want to see you. Open up the flood. is roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb now was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before him. Open up the gates, open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. Our God comes to save, is here to set the captives free. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is a lion, the Lion of Judah, roaring with power and fighting our battle. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before him. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Who can stop the Lord? Our God is a lion, the Lion of Judah, is roaring with power and fighting our battle. And every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before the Lion and the to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only.
fill our lungs with your breath. God, we know that you are above all things. We know that you have called us into your presence. We know that you invite us in. And it is only by your breath that fills our lungs that we sing to you. So, Father, we give you praise and we give you honor and we give you glory because we know that it's you. It's nothing that we've done. It's nothing of our efforts, God. It's only you. So we join with all the earth, our hearts singing as one, bones crying out, great are you, Lord. We thank you, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hello and welcome. I am Anchorman Ryan here with Osage News. This morning, I would like to direct you over to osagehills.com/live for your best viewing opportunity this morning. In there, you have the opportunity to introduce yourself, fill out a connection card, and ask for prayer, along with many other things going on throughout the service. Digital connection groups will be starting soon, so make sure that you are a part of one of those. Let us know if you would like to be a part of one going on very soon. Daily Bible studies are happening on our Facebook Live every day at 10 a.m. with James and Robin Wright, so make sure that you join us there for those daily for a Bible study. Also for Osage kids and Osage students, we have plenty of things going on for them throughout the week, so make sure that you check out what's going on. Things are changing for those coming next week, so make sure that you are looking out for that on our Facebook and Instagram pages. In other news, later on in our service, you have the opportunity to take communion as a family, so make sure that you have all of your supplies out and ready to go right now. Also, later on, we'll have the opportunity to give to the church, to our congregation. You can do that through osagehills.com/give, or you have the opportunity to mail that in to us. Make sure that you are connecting Christ to where you live, whether that be through giving or maybe raking a person's yard, or maybe that's connecting them to our church through our online platform. So make sure that you go and do that today. Make sure that you let us know that your family was watching this morning by using the hashtag Osage in your PJs, and take a picture of your family, post it on social media so that we know that you are a part of our service today. That is all for Anchorman Ryan. Now I'm going to hand it over to James for the good news.
Have you gotten to that point in social distancing where you are itching to get out of the house and looking for things to do? Maybe you're at that point where your family has gone a little bit stir crazy and your wife is jumping up on the bench at the table and dancing and singing weird songs. If not you, that's at least what's happening in our house. You know, there are days with 7 people that I love it. I love the noise. I love the chaos. I love it. And there are other days when working from home, Robin trying to teach our kids from home and be a teacher from home, as well as me trying to hop online and do Bible studies and everything daily, it's just getting to be quite a bit. And all of these things, all of this figuring it out can be a little bit stressful at times. I don't know if you're there. You know, and in the middle of the stress and in the middle of all of these things, there are times when we're simply trying to figure out, how does all of this work? Maybe you're there. Maybe you're like me. Or maybe there are times when you realize that the only thing you've done all day is sit on the couch, eat a few chocolates that your kids had left over from Easter, and scroll through Facebook. And speaking of Facebook, how many of your devices are telling you that you've spent 17,000 hours online this week when the normal is about 30 minutes a day? You know, I found it interesting the other night. Robin and I were sitting on the couch, and I picked up my phone because, well, I don't know what else to do most of the time. So I picked up my phone and I opened it. And what did I do? Well, I went straight to Facebook. Not really intentionally, but I just did it. And she looked at me and said, "It's habit, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, it's kind of habit at this point." Which makes it completely weird when you go, man, the only thing I'm doing is opening my phone, browsing through a few people's pictures, and then shutting it off. Sometimes reading an article, sometimes engaging in what's happening, but for the most part, I'm just trying to fill the silence with something. You know, some of you have it worse than me. You actually turn on the ringer on your phone and you have every notification hitting you, and you're sitting there like Pavlov's dog. The moment that ding goes off, your leg starts twitching until you finally pick up the phone, and then it stops. We are looking for ways to fill the silence because we feel like we're missing out on something important. We're missing out on graduations, and we're missing out on hugs and school and people and graduation and all of these things. And it's causing anxiety, and it's causing depression, and alcohol sales are through the roof right now, and people don't really know what to do. You know, there are people that have it way worse than opening an app and being addicted to Facebook, and I've got to stop that this week. I mean, some of you are turning to marijuana, more alcohol than normal, just scrolling through memes, trying to find something to help you escape the reality that is your house right now. People are depressed, playing more video games, just trying to figure out what to do. And in the middle of all of this, we've lost this ability to lament what we've lost. Sure, we know we've lost things. In fact, our kids don't finish school out this year. I asked Robin yesterday, what's it like to not be able to interact with your students? And then I thought, I'm preaching to a camera and an empty room. And man, I hate this. We've lost something that we may or may not regain the fullness of. And whatever that means, we've got to figure this out together. And something I think that we need to do, especially as believers, is learn how to lament. Instead of crying out and looking for answers and trying to solve all of the problems that we have right now, we need to lament. We need to have a recentering of what God has asked of us. Now, in case you're wondering, a lament is a crying out in grief. It's this, something is broken in the world and it must be fixed. Something is wrong, but I don't know what to do. So God, I'm just going to cry out to you. Death happens, pain happens. We lose our jobs and we lose our sense of normalcy, and yet we forget to cry out. Robin and I have had a lot of conversations lately, and one of them we had the other day. She was painting, and I stepped out to talk to her in the garage, and she told me about some brokenness and some things that I had said that have hurt, and my reaction was to laugh. Kind of an awkward, like, ha, and get out of there as quickly as possible because I didn't know how to sit in the lament. I think we like anthems more than laments because anthems cause this thing in our soul. They cause this stirring in our heart that makes us want to jump for joy and to sing, and they stir up these feelings in us. A teenage angst when you hear "It Smells Like Teen Spirit." Or those thoughts that come into your head as the windows are rolled down and Bon Jovi comes on. You're like, oh, we're halfway there. The feeling that you get when you hear that drum beat, that boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap. What happens in your head when that happens? When that moment hits? What about when you hear a guitar chord strum? Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots, ruined your black tie affair. Where does that take you? What do you want to do in that moment? You know, I asked some of you what some of your favorite anthems are. Ironically, on Facebook, you guys said songs like, Don't Stop Believing. I don't think there was a moment in youth ministry in my last 5 years when we didn't go to a conference and some kid somewhere found a piano and started playing that song. Dream On. Aerosmith, rocking it there. Sweet Home Alabama, Wonderful Tonight. How about Twisted Sister? We're not going to take it. That's how I think many of us feel about COVID-19 and social distancing right now. Anthems stir something up in us. They cause us to dream. They make us want something more. I asked that question, and it was interesting to watch because the first answers were a bunch of believers crying out with songs that encourage you, that bring you back to who God is. Death was arrested, Waymaker, Chain Breaker, Great are you, Lord, that we sang earlier. Blessed be your name. It's a song that has deep meaning for Robin and I. As I was thinking about this, I thought of a song written more than 500 years ago that brings us back to this reminder that a mighty fortress is our God. We love anthems a whole lot more than we like to lament. We want to escape the reality of our pain. But what if they can be one and the same? What if our anthem can be a lament? We're going to be in Psalm 62 today, and as you get there, I want to tell you a few things about the Psalms. Number one, there's 150 different songs written. This is the song book of the church, and if you go to any Gideon Bible, any book on common prayer, even your Bible now, the Psalms are there. Written over a period of 1,000 years from 1500 to 500 BC. These psalms, these songs of the church have rung out through history because they're more than just words on a page. They're filled with deep emotion and meaning and hurt and pain and heartache and joy. They remind us how majestic our God is and how good it is to be in His presence, and that we should come to Him with the clanging cymbal. Yes, it's in there. But they also remind us of pain and heartbreak and crying out and to lament what is missing. 50, 1/3 of the Psalms are laments. A crying out of the church that something is broken and something is hurting, and yet God is still there. I think some of these laments are also anthems, a reminder to us of who God is. Psalm 62, David, the psalmist, is crying out. And one thing I want to explain before we dive into this, there's this word here, Selah, at the end of verse 8. It was written for the choir master, and so that word meant to pause, to stop for a moment, and to let the words and the music sink in. And so, we're going to do that very thing. In fact, we're going to stop at verse 8 today. So if you have your Bible there, or your app, Psalm 62. For God alone, my soul waits in silence. From Him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, and I shall not be greatly shaken. How long will all of you attack a man to batter him? Like a leaning wall, a tottering fence. They only plan to thrust him down from his high position. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence. For my hope is from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my salvation and my glory. My mighty rock, my refuge is God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. I don't think we speak like that very often. We don't like to cry out and lament what is missing. But we can learn some things from David. In the midst of pain, and we don't really know what's going on around Psalm 62. I kept trying to look it up and figure it out. We don't really know. But in the midst of his pain and his suffering, whatever is going on, David is able to say, "For God alone my soul waits in silence." I don't know about you, but if there is silence in the room, I'm not doing very well. Let alone waiting on God in silence. I mean, if something is broken, we want to fix it. Even today, I had a difficult time sitting still when I knew that there were things going on around me that I could maybe step in and help with. Not that I was even needed. I just couldn't sit. I couldn't wait. I needed to do something because I was struggling to sit in the silence. I mean, how many of us are struggling in our homes to sit in the silence, to wait on the Lord, to actually see when all of this will play out? In the Lament Psalms, they didn't know when there would be an end. We don't know when there will be an end. And so we wait. But what are we waiting on? Are we waiting on God to reveal himself to us, or are we waiting on the next show to start on Netflix? Are we waiting in the silence to see where we might be able to lead our family or what God has to teach us in his word? Or are we looking for answers in the Tiger King? We don't wait very well. And yet lamenting means sometimes we get to sit and wait in the morning. We get to mourn what is lost. And we look different in that. We look different because this isn't all we're about. There is something more beyond these days that we have right now. So do we wait? Do we know that God alone is our salvation? You know, when I'm looking for answers, when I'm looking to fix all the problems, then I'm trusting in my own salvation. I'm trusting in my own strength to get things done. When I'm mourning that a tradition might be broken or somebody might not experience something that they've waited their whole life for, but I'm looking to try and fix that problem and instead of seeking God for my own answers, for his answers, then all I'm doing is trying to be my own salvation. Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody comes to the Father but through me." Then he is our salvation. And we wait in silence, and we wait for him. I mean, that's the cry of the psalmist. Remember, this is a song. For him comes my salvation, but if all I can focus on is how much money I've lost in the stock market, then I'm more worried about things of this earth that are temporal than I am about God. And I know it hurts. I'm not negating that pain. But what if God has something more in store for you? He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken. I mean, come on. David waiting in silence, reminding himself that God alone is his salvation, reminding himself that he is alone my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken, is this revealing of God's character, this deep-rooted sense of God's character in his life, and this understanding that it is more than simply walking through life aimlessly looking for answers. We're surrounded by people in our world who are anxious right now, who are worried about where their next meal might come from, who are worried how long they might have to work from home, who are worried that this thing may never escape them and they may never be able to go out in public again. We're anxious and depressed and lonely. And David is crying out, my God is my fortress and my rock. I will not be shaken. I will be reminded of who he is. You see, Christian lament looks different than everything else. As a couple of commentators have said, biblical lament is prayer. Secular complaint collapses into the meaningless. Are you praying about things and taking them to God? Or are you just complaining about things so they can collapse into the meaningless? What are we really doing? How are we really handling this time? There's times when I'm not handling it very well, and there's times when I'm handling it okay. But my reminder needs to be that God is my fortress. He is my salvation. He goes on, how long will all of you attack a man to batter him? You ever felt that way? Really lonely. It feels like everybody is attacking and hitting you from all sides, and everything is happening to you in that moment that it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, David has felt this at different times in his life. I mean, Saul, the king, is chasing after him, and then his son is trying to dethrone him and chases after him. I think in 1st and 2nd Samuel, David is on the run almost as much as he's in Jerusalem, because people keep chasing him, and he's going, how long? How long do I have to take this? How long are people going to be battering against me like a leaning wall, a tottering fence? They just keep leaning over, trying to knock me over more and more and more. They only plan to thrust him down. That's the goal. Thrust him down, knock him down from his high position, and they take pleasure in falsehood. All they want to do is lie about this. All they want to do is make up lies, make up things to discredit my character and my behavior, and all they want to do is get rid of me. I mean, this is what David's crying out. Honest before God. Yes, God is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I will not be shaken. But God, how long can this go on? How long can we stay in our homes and not see people? How long will this be our reality? How long must we distance ourselves from one another when all I want is a hug from a friend? When I want to see somebody's face and talk to them, not on the other side of a screen, but in real life, and not 6 feet away in our cars? How long? How long must this last? God, how long? And David's cry is something completely different. They plan to thrust him down. People are attacking him. They take pleasure in their falsehood and their lies against me. They bless with their mouths. Oh, you're so good. I love you so much. And they curse me behind their backs. I can't stand that person. How long? How long must this go on, God? Because the lies and the cursing and the blessing are not equaling up. There is something missing. There is something broken. And you feel it. I love the song, the Andrew Peterson song that we sing when it says, do you feel the world is broken? Yeah, we do. Do you feel the shadows deepen? Yeah, we do. Something is missing. Our anthem becomes our lament because it reminds us of who God is, because an anthem is meant to stir up praise and devotion. I love where David goes. How long is this going to happen? But for God alone, my soul, wait in silence. I can complain. I can tell it to you, Lord, but I'm going to wait on you in silence. Soul, hey, remember, we wait on God in silence. Why? Because my hope is from him. Because I know that in the Lord there is a better ending to all of this. There is something different than there is right now. There is more on the other side of the temporal. There's eternal. And so my soul is going to wait in silence. I'm reminding myself, he said it before, reminding himself again, my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. Let me say it over and over and over. Okay, God, you only are my rock. You only are my salvation. You're my fortress. I will not be shaken. You alone are my rock. You're my fortress. I will not be shaken. You alone, God. You're my rock, my salvation, my fortress. I will not be shaken. My rock, my salvation, my fortress. I will not be shaken because my hope is in you. I think that's the key. No matter what David is doing here, no matter where he is crying out, no matter how much pain he's in, no matter how many things are going wrong around him, he's remembering that his hope is in the Lord. And on God rests my salvation and my glory. My mighty rock, my refuge is God. How many of us are seeking glory on our own? Like, we want to make the name for ourselves. We want to make sure that everything is exactly as it should be in our world so that we can make a name for ourselves so that people will recognize us. And David is somehow recognizing, no matter how many people are beating against me, my glory is in the Lord. No matter how many times things seem to be off, if I am surrounded by him, if my fortress is in him, if he is my rock, then guess what? My glory is also in him. Because the glory doesn't become about me, it becomes about him. And then as a result, he gives me glory. My mighty rock. And then this reminder, trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him, for God is a refuge for us. God is a refuge. Hope is from him. He's my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I shall not be shaken. And guess what? He is a refuge. He's the one I can cling to. And some of us really need a refuge right now. We don't know how to handle not being around people. We don't know how to handle the silence. We're lamenting the loss, but we're not really doing it very well. Sometimes it's more of that secular complaining that is just leading into meaningless, into nothingness. And yet, this biblical lament is our prayer to God. God, take it. I have a bad habit of complaining. And I complain about things much more than I should, and I don't take them to God as often as I should, and so maybe I need to. Maybe that's my challenge, is that I need to take this to God more and more and more and offer things to him. Because, in verse 5, he alone is who I'm to wait on. He alone is the one that I get to sit back and say, okay, God, I don't like this. But I'm going to wait in silence on you. I'm not going to voice my concerns out to the world. My complaints out to the world. I might voice a concern or two, but my complaints need to be before you. I need to give them to you first. Sermons can sometimes be convicting for the one preaching it, and this is not any fun. I actually told Robin today, I need to hear this as much as anybody. But David says, my soul can wait in silence, for my hope is from him. My hope is from him. And we need to be reminded of that anthem of hope that we have in him. If you would, Hebrews 6. It's this incredible passage. I'm really kind of starting to fall in love with the book of Hebrews, this letter. The author is kind of setting things up, talking about how God made a promise to Abraham, and he swore by himself that I will keep this promise, and all these things. But in verse 17, he kind of starts this thought that we need to hold on to today. When God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable character of his purpose, he guaranteed it with an oath to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the Israelites, to us. So that by two unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, that's not one of the unchangeable things, but it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. Fled for refuge into the arms of Jesus. Remember in Psalm 62, trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him, for God is a refuge for us. We who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. And we have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain, where Jesus is gone as a forerunner on our behalf, having become a high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. Basically, here's the deal. Because we have an anchor of hope in Jesus, we have eternity with him. Because we follow him, we can hold fast to the hope that we have in him. But are we holding fast to that hope? Are you holding fast to the hope of Jesus? I mean, yeah, right now we can lament the loss. We can lament the things that may never be. And it's okay. Because our hope isn't in those things. Our hope isn't in an experience. Our hope is in the Lord. Our hope is in eternity with Him. We look beyond the now to the then. We look to what He has in store for us because of who He is. What are you hoping for? Where is your refuge? Is your home your refuge, or is the Lord your refuge? What causes you to not be shaken? Is it a relationship with Him? It should be. Is He your fortress? Is He the one that you go, I'm not going to be shaken because I'm trusting in Him? So many of us are looking for answers in everything but Jesus. We're looking for hope in everything but Him, and yet He says, follow me, trust me, come to me. The world is looking for hope anywhere it can be found, and yet what the world is doing is meaningless and collapsing. Are we looking for what the world has, or are we following what Jesus has in store for us? There is a time to mourn. There's a time to dance. We need to lean into both. Our anthem can be a lament. And right now, it's okay to lament what we have lost, to lean into what God has in store for us. But are you willing to sit in the silence and to lament? Are you willing to wait on Him? Here's how I'm going to do that this week. There will be a day when I hand my iPad and my phone to Robin and I shut them off, at least for the morning, and I sit with my Bible and I cry out to God. And I lament what has been lost, and I come honestly before Him about the brokenness in my own soul, about the brokenness of the things that we are missing out right now that I am missing as well. And in the middle of that, I am going to remember to hold fast to the hope that I have in Him. That's all we can do right now. Cry out to God and hold fast to the hope we have in Him. What are you holding on to? What is it that you're holding fast to? What is it that you need to let go of so you can hold fast to Him? Father, I pray that across these screens and these cameras and these places that your Spirit would move, that you would teach us more and more of your way, that you would help us to see the hope that we have in you, the joy that we have because of your Spirit, God, but you would also help us to lament what we have lost, to mourn and to cry out and to give it to you, and to remember that even in this time, our rock and our fortress is you. To remember that even in this time, you are Lord. And that will never change. As Hebrews tells us later, you are the same yesterday and today and forever. God, help us to find you and to be reminded of the hope that we have in you. Hope for today and hope for the future. And may we in this time set our roots down deep in you and fortify that fortress so that when the day comes again and when we are battered and beaten, we are standing firm in you. There are many of you who may be watching today that have never accepted Jesus. You don't have any idea what it means to set Him as your root, to set Him as your fortress. When I talk about leaning on Him and never being shaken and finding hope in Him, you're going, yeah, everything seems hopeless and pointless and meaningless right now. I can assure you of this. Hope in Jesus is never misguided. Salvation in Him is never the wrong thing. And giving your life to Him may be the thing that you need to do today. If so, let us know. But for you believers, you just may need to remind yourself of where your hope really lies and who your rock really is. And I pray that you would do that today.
To Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see His wounds, His hands, His feet, my Savior, that cursed cheat. Sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise in on the sands, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise His name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise, oh Lord our God. Oh, praise the name of the Lord.
You know, one thing that I lament right now, that I'm missing in mourning that we don't get to do together, is communion. This idea that we get to stop to take part in what Jesus has done for us in his giving of his blood and his body, to remind ourselves of the brokenness of our sin and the hope that we have in him. Luke 22, beginning in verse 14. And when the hour came, he reclined at table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he said, take this and divide it among yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And likewise the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. That night, Jesus gave us something beautiful. And the early church thought it was important that every time they got together, they remembered what Christ had done for them. And in your little churches, in your homes, you get to stop and to remember what Christ has done for you. And so we want to give you the time, the opportunity to simply stop and to remember who Jesus is and what he has done for you. Father, go before us in our homes. Remind us of the incredible sacrifice that you did, that you gave, of your body and your blood, that you died on the cross for us, that we might have life, and that you rose again. Remind us of who you are, Lord, and the goodness of your name. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Well, I am really thankful that you joined us online today, and I pray that this has been a good experience for you. There will be a day when we get to be back together, and I want that to be a party, when we can celebrate and be over the lament, and the hope that we have is seen because we get to worship our Lord together. So I pray that you are excited about that day and joining us again. For now, can you do a couple of things for me? Number one, in the top right-hand corner of your screen, if you're on a computer, the top left-hand corner, if you're on your phone, there's 3 little dashes or some lines right there. Some things that we'd like you to do. Number 1, we would love for you to fill out that connection card. Let us know that you joined us today. Let us know how many in your family joined you in this today. And if we can pray for you, please let us know that as well. Number 2, sign up for a digital connection group. It might say small groups up there. We are looking for opportunities to connect the body together and to simply engage in fellowship with one another, to engage the body in Bible studies or just sharing our hurts and praying for one another. And we want you to be a part of that. So please sign up. We're going to dish those out on Monday, the 20th, so we really need you to sign up now. Third, give. This is not something that we do because the church needs money, but because it is honoring to God, because we are advancing his kingdom at Osage Hills, and we get to do that because of you. And I'm so thankful that you give to this church and are a part of it. And I know many of you got stimulus checks this week. God would love for you to do what you want with those, but he wants you to honor him as well. You can do that in 2 ways. You can give online or mail into P.O. Box 927, Sand Springs, Oklahoma, 74063. Let me tell you, I feel really weird asking you to do this over a television screen, and I'm just praying that God is the one who convicts hearts and minds, and he's the one that does this for us. Hey, we're going to worship together. We're going to close out our time together by doing that very thing, and so I pray that this week would be a great week for you, that you take some time to sit in the morning and to lament what you're missing, but to also remember that anthem of hope that we have because of Jesus Christ.
Chains